It's a strange thing to go around singing these songs that nobody understands, you know. But that's why I translate them. And I also just really like the feel of Yiddish. It's got a great taste. It's a language which developed over thousands of years in many different countries, and it doesn't have its own country. And so it brought in, much like English, contemporary, modern English, it brought in vocabulary from all over the world, from many, many different languages. And those languages also changed Yiddish and changed the grammar and the way that it's built. And Shalom Aleichem was a master in his writing. If you read him in Yiddish, it's amazing to read him in Yiddish because his Yiddish is totally flexible. You know, if a character is speaking, depending on who he's speaking to, his Yiddish will change. He can speak a very Russian-inflected Yiddish, full of Russian. If he's speaking to another Jew in the presence of a non-Jew who he doesn't want to understand them, they'll speak in a very, very Hebrew Yiddish. It's constantly shifting and changing depending on what you want to use it for. It's a great language, and when you get into Yiddish and you get further and further into it, you start learning some of those subtleties, and it's a wonderful thing.
Do you want to do Jew and You? Or no?
Jew and You.
I pulled it up if you want.
Now I pulled it up here too. Okay. Well, Blair has asked me to do a song. I should give a little background on this.
Yeah.
Okay, I was in a play. There's a wonderful theater in Berlin called Bauhaus Naunienstrasse, which is called a post-migrant theater. And all of the artists who work there, the writers and the directors and the actors, they all have an immigration, not a personal immigration background, but they come from communities of immigrants. So it's a wonderful group of people. Berlin has the largest Turkish population outside of Turkey, and so there's a lot of Turks, a lot of Kurds, a lot of Lebanese. There's Russians, there's Israelis, there's Palestinians, and then there was me, you know. And I'm also there. I guess I'm post-migrant. And there was a play that was written by Hakan Savaş-Mücan, who is a Turkish-German playwright, wonderful guy. And we were working with a director named Michael Ronen, who is an Israeli director who works with Habima, and they wanted to create a play from scratch. So they got a bunch of actors together with many different backgrounds and stories. And the playwright just sort of did workshops with us and interviews and stuff. And they asked me to be in the play and to write music for it. And so when we sat together, we talked not only about Jewish issues, but also a lot about Detroit. And he didn't know much about Detroit, so he started reading up and seeing all these documentaries, and he was fascinated by Detroit. And he ended up making this kind of dream play where the characters are all based loosely on the actors who are playing them. And his role for me was as the storyteller, but he created another character. The play takes place in the forests of Detroit, in some sort of a post-apocalyptic dreamscape, where it's just like a wasteland. I mean, I know, look, it's problematic, but believe me, it's not the only problematic thing. It's a play, we were playing. So it takes place on the edge of this forest, and I was like, it's too clean, you should have some like car parts around, like like car tires and stuff. And it was all these characters from Germany and Israel and Iran and everywhere, and they were all coming to the forests of Detroit to seek out this lost prophet who may be the Messiah, who was some sort of a folk or rock musician, a Jewish rock musician from Detroit named Adam Spielman. And he was a junkie, and then he disappeared, and he had some sort of a weird prophecy about the war, that there was going to be a nuclear war between Iran and Israel, and you know, all of these people from all these different backgrounds were coming for his, you know, salvation.
Eric would ask you would like to know he's definitely a member here.
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. Adam Spielman was he was a troubled lad. And so it wasn't clear if my character was him or if I was just the storyteller. But when we were developing the play, I said I would like to write some songs that were his testament, his kind of prophetic testament. Because originally it was just very vague why they cared about this guy. And I started thinking about a book called The Jewish Century by Sluskin, and some of the later writings of Edward Said, and some just basic ideas of like an abstract concept of diaspora, of diasporism, to steal that from Philip Roth. So I ended up writing this really long, the Universal Diasporic Testament of Adam Spielman, who, yeah, it's really, I've performed it very rarely outside of the context of this play, because it needs this sort of framing, because I think it's sort of problematic, but it was also just a kind of challenge for me as a songwriter, and you'll see why. If you can believe it or not, I'm going to perform for you the shortened version. And the middle part of it, I'm apologizing in advance, I'm just going to read it from my iPhone, because I don't remember it. But I'll sing the first part for you. All you drunken chicks are sweethearts with your bloodshot eyes of blue. All you border-crossing Fagler who've been quarantined for flu. All you lost exilic aliens, you migrant mongrel stew. You needn't feel verloren, you don't have to be blue. Just climb aboard this ark of ours and join the soggy crew. It's a diasporic politics, it's a reconstructed you, with permeable borders in between the old and new. It's a way to hide away what they would take away from you. Forget your God and country and your revolution too. It's possible for you to leave the many for the few. It don't matter if your daddy is from Poland or Peru. Your blood might come from Turkey or Detroit or Timbuktu. Your language could be Farsi, Sanskrit, German, or Zulu. Come on, we've got some wandering to do. So bring out your Jew, bring out your Jew. You may have a Jew inside of you. A Jew, a secret little Jew. A secret Jew is buried inside you. So, that was like the first part. And I called that benediction. So here's the second part. My definition here could use some explanation true. You have to ask yourself just what I mean when I say Jew. Well, the Jewishness, perhaps you haven't seen one since the end of World War II. I was performing this in Berlin. Well, the Jewishness concerning us should not be misconstrued. Blood and lands are things with which it doesn't have to do. Religion is a matter most irrelevant here too. So let us try to look at this anew. To find a category underneath the ones we knew. A mercurial identity for people who are strewn in countries far and wide, who haven't got a home in view, who drag around like shackles all the roots from which they grew. Well, others have endured this gullus too. And here I offer it all up to you. A kosher Yiddish food for thought that Goyim now can chew. It's what they did with Jesus when they wrote the Bible new, rebranded monotheism for wider public view. So learn to take the rootless cosmopolitan world view in the hidden interstices we all normally eschew. To schlep your gullish proudly, you must learn how to make do. And learn is what the wise man tells us to. So learn to be a Jew, learn to be a Jew. You may have a Jew inside of you. Atonement. Why should I put the emphasis on secret inner Jews? We all have different nations that we wear like different shoes. They carry us around so that our feet don't get too bruised. It may seem to be easier just to go out in the nude, to throw up our identities like half-digested food. So maybe it's reductive what I'm trying to pursue. It's philo-Semitism and a cheap semantic ruse. It's highly problematic and will probably confuse. And what about the people who are actually Jews? With traumas all my deconstructed theories can't subdue. Something here is missing, a historic residue. But you know what it is. I don't have to tell you. Just ask a gentle German for a history review. She'll tell you how they marked us with numerical tattoos. They turned us into ashes, hair, and lamps, and soap and glue. And no, it wasn't something that I personally knew, but they taught me all about it in my temple Sunday school, and I guess it kind of left me with some hang-ups and taboos. But how can we wear the mantle of the martyred ghetto Jews? We turned our backs on many things that brought our people through. And did it really work to try to make a new Hebrew? With the enemies we slew, the hatred grew and grew. But the thing you hate in others is the thing you hate in you. And where it all went wrong, nobody knew. Now exile will return like deja vu. So we will have to learn it all anew. Not only as a victim, but a perpetrator too. To learn to take the rootless cosmopolitan worldview. Learn to be a Jew, learn to be a Jew, learn to be a Jew among the Jews. A Jew, the problem isn't new. A homeless Jew is hiding inside you. But the time is getting late, and soon we'll have to pay our dues, and we're faced with situations where we all will have to choose. And no one will recover what we're all about to lose. And history is a river full of things we'll have to use. The world is turning colder, and the walls are high and true. And the cities all are burning into something dark and new. And the fire and the waste have beat the heavens black and blue. And you're living in a land and time that isn't made for you. And the love you've been defending doesn't help like it used to. You're refugees from wars between religious points of view. And all the broken borders and the names they put on you. Well, I have a little prophecy for you. An apocalyptic mystery, a clue. As the world becomes Detroit, we all become like Jews. When Zion is destroyed, the promise will come true. Detroit is all your cities, and Zion is in you. So learn to take it with you. Learn to be a Jew. So when they ask you for your papers, and you don't know what to do, remember in this moment what you're carrying with you. Because the day will come when all your papers are refused, and then you'll find yourself in exile too. So I talk about the hidden other hiding inside you. But I mean it as a question, not an answer to your blues. The question is the answer. And the question, it is you. And the name I give this question is a Jew. But a Jew can be an Arab, or a German, or a Druze. So if you have a better name that you would like to use, well, I'd love to hear the prophecy of you. The imaginary diasporic messianic you. The broken and neurotic diasporic migrant you. This isn't just the dream of me, it is the dream of you. There are no forests in Detroit, you can believe me that that's true. So forgive this self-indulgence that I spew. There's only one Messiah, and he's buried inside you. So bring him out and show the world what we all need to do. Because I just wrote this fucking thing where every sentence rhymes with Jew.
Oh.
So bring out your Jew, bring out your Jew. You may have a Jew inside of you. A secret little Jew. A secret Jew is hiding inside you.
And you still haven't got a clue.
I was on a radio show in Israel, and I performed that, and somebody was like this. They were filming it like on a cell phone, and then they put it on. Somebody put it on the internet, and there's all these comments like people like, what kind of sick crap is this? They're like Zionist asshole and like anti-Semite, and it's like nobody got it.
Yeah, thanks for indulging us. Yay.
But that kind of thing happens a lot, you know. When I either be accused of being sick or right wing or left wing. I mean, not so much right wing, but you know.
You all can send all of your complaints to me, not to Dan.
Yeah, complain.